The following podcast contains spoilers and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised. Hello and welcome to Animated Anarchy, where we take a critical look at animated features of all kinds to determine the good and the bad. Hi, I'm Andrew Dickman.
And I'm Mike Ruocco.
And, hoo boy, we got a treat for you today.
Oh, God. So should I do a little background on this?
Well, yeah, let's do a background,
All right.
because this was like last-minute decision,
This was a very
right?
last-minute decision. What happened was the other day I had a little gathering at my house, and my friends Zoe Moss and Jake Strick got me sort of a housewarming present.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was there. I was there. It was like a get-together.
Jake's mom had a bunch of movie posters, and they gave me one because they knew I wanted to hang stuff up on my walls.
All from like the 60s and 70s, right?
60s and 70s, yeah. So
I want to look at this. I want to look at this collection, by the way, because
me too.
That's got to be a great collection.
But
if you had this, there's got to be more.
Yeah, there's got to be
great stuff.
But they gave me it's a beautiful, beautiful poster. But I'm like, but I never saw it because there's been times where I've wanted to sit down and watch it because I've heard about this movie.
Yeah,
but
we've both heard about this. I mean, like I heard about this movie for the longest time, but I never really
went out and seeked.
Yeah, I never sought it out. It just seemed to be one of those things where it's like, well, this is a real mystery, and it seems very interesting. But
it exists.
It exists. Yeah,
that's interesting. And then so the movie,
there's not a whole lot of information about it either.
Yeah. It's a lovely poster. Mm-hmm. It's a great poster.
Yeah.
The movie is called Pinocchio in Outer Space.
Pinocchio in Outer Space! Yes, and that's the poster that you were given, and like immediately when we saw that, we were like, hey, we should probably talk about that movie.
So
and then but it came upon me to actually look for this movie, and there's pretty much zero information about this movie at the first place. You go on Amazon, there's nothing about it. There's no VHS, there's no DVD. I even went on eBay. There's nothing on eBay about this damn thing.
You found a copy. You found
Well, the thing is like I found like a file of this, but it's really really terrible quality. It was like from a VHS tape recorded like digitally, and but. Then I looked up on YouTube, and this thing is in parts. It's a 7-part thing on YouTube. So if you want, you can actually look this up and watch it.
And as you could tell by how we're laughing to ourselves about this, this was a very interesting experience watching this movie.
I'm going to say this right now. This is the worst thing that we have seen since we started this.
We've only done, when you really think about it, we haven't really watched too many movies.
Well, this is the worst thing that I've seen like in a long time, honestly.
It's pretty bad. I mean,
we sat through Cars and we'd done a commentary of that, but that's like, I mean, that's like in its whole other realm. But this is like,
it was amusing.
This is confusing.
Yeah. Like, and the funny thing was you had a file and we were about ready to sit down and watch it.
Oh, yeah.
And it begins with this really not good song.
Yeah.
It's like a toy shop song. And in the middle of the song, like right at the beginning of the song, you hear it and you're like, oh, that's awful. And then the file just was like, the television just like, I'm not playing this.
The television gave up
and just stopped the movie.
It said like there's a problem with the audio.
Like
it's
audio
going
codec.
to turn off. And then it restarted, but it was in like no sound whatsoever.
Like it was pretty judgmental.
I was actually worried about my TV. I was like, did this thing like destroy my speakers?
You have a very judgmental television. Yeah, but I have to admit, he made a very good call on that movie.
My TV has good taste.
Yes.
And it does not want any. But this started off like with the most terrible sounds. Like very tinny.
Very tinny, like, spacey sounds.
Like hissing. Like very loud, intense, space-like hissing. This is like, okay, if you've ever seen the Gene Deitch
Tom and
Jerry episodes, it's basically that, but like escalated to these annoying proportions.
It was grating, and it was so loud and intrusive that
my teeth hurt.
Yeah,
listening
the
to
speakers were crackling. We like backed away from the TV.
Yeah,
like as if like in that that famous ad where the guy puts in a tape of like Beethoven and just gets blasted in a seat?
Yeah.
That was us, or Ride of the Valkyries or whatever.
Well, we had to like move from the TV to my computer because the computer's like codecs are fine, but we watched it on the TV and it's like I have one of the speakers that's directed towards me. You were positioned somewhere else that was like it didn't really bother you that much, but everything that blasted towards me, I was just like I was shivering. Did you see me like shiver? Like
it was blunt force trauma.
It really hurt.
You physically looked like you got hit in the face.
Yeah, it was like this loud hissing and loud like whistle. Like I don't even know how they made these sounds. How was this like a theremin that was pitched up far too high and then echoed, and it's really hard to describe these sounds.
Yeah.
You have to kind of listen to them yourself, but it's like okay, here's another example. When you go into the Space Mountain ride in the line where you're actually inside and you hear all those weird like space sounds, those are actually like they're a sign of the times. It's like, you know, very 60s kind of like we're going to space now sort of special effects. But it's like it was that, but just let's see how far we could take that. Let's raise the volume up a little bit higher. And I don't know if that's the fault of the transition of the video itself
to digital. You mean?
To digital. But honestly, if I would not want to been in a theater.
I was about to say,
this.
Imagine being in a theater. and being, I mean, back in the day, I don't know what the speaker systems were like back then.
Yeah.
So, but either way, it was very intrusive.
The adventure you're about to see is based on a true portrayal of outer space and could actually happen to a puppet come alive.
But sound aside, let's talk about this movie.
Yeah, let's go on ahead. Well, it starts off with these really annoying sounds, but then it starts with a narrator, and it's like, this is based on a true story for a little wooden boy. It's like
a very odd.
What kind of assumption would you make to say, okay, it's like first you're telling me this is a real story or based on a true story
with the title Pinocchio in Outer Space. This is a true story.
But
my ass.
But it's telling you, it's like this would be true if you're a wooden boy. So we know that wooden boys don't exist, so this couldn't be true to us, but if there was a wooden boy, this would be true to them. So somehow Pinocchio is watching this movie and saying, like, I lived that. You know?
I just love, it's just...
Everything about this is true.
It was
look at this. Look, do you see that? I met that guy. He's an ass.
It was an unnecessary narration.
It was.
That was one person's job.
But the thing is like the narration didn't even matter whatsoever. I mean, most narration doesn't really matter. It's like, unless it's like actually introducing a character or something like that. This was just like, this is based on a true story. And then we go into space, and there's a
little cottage.
There's a cottage in space.
And
on a cloud in space.
Yeah, and the blue fairy.
And
her, I guess her mother.
Her poor
dear mother.
Her poor dear mother, who is like complaining. I don't know what she wasn't even knitting.
It was like an expositional beginning. She's up there knitting or doing something.
She was rolling up yarn.
Oh, she was rolling up yarn.
There wasn't even knitting involved. It was just like the blue fairy was holding up the yarn, and then the mother was rolling it into a ball.
And there was just like, oh, these spaceships and
these spaceships it's getting so crowded in space anymore.
So loud and intrusive.
Yes.
And then they mention expositionally that like the blue fairy's like, oh, Pinocchio. Oh, Pinocchio, wasn't that boy, that puppet boy that boy who turned into a puppet? No, it's the other way around, Mom.
It was basically like 5 minutes of exposition of the Walt Disney Pinocchio.
Barely.
Yeah, I mean, well...
It skims the line of the Disney movie.
Yeah.
This whole movie skims the line.
We're supposed to assume that this is like a sequel to that movie, because it happens like
most Filmation sequels to Disney movies.
Yeah, that's true. Oh God, we're probably gonna have to talk about Happily Ever After at some point.
Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night.
Was that a thing?
Yeah.
Are you serious? There's another Pinocchio movie?
I have it on VHS.
Jesus.
I had it when I was a kid. I barely remember it.
Oh,
but I remember watching and being like, this is nothing like the Disney movie.
Oh, God. Well, yeah. Okay, so we find out that this was a co-production with an American-Belgian.
It was made for American audiences, but it was made in Belgium.
And it was produced by Filmation.
Or no, well, not by Filmation. It was the guy who eventually founded.
Oh, right, yeah,
Filmation.
Okay. So it wasn't Filmation at the time. It was just.
It was a little too early.
Yeah. Okay. But same idea, basically. Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
So she has to. The Blue Fairy explains that Pinocchio, since the events of, I guess, the original story or the movie or whatever, has reverted to being an asshole again. So he's like, he was good. And then you see him like he's separating these two kids. It's like, but then he reverted, and then he just beats the crap out of these two kids and eats candy.
Yeah,
and he's like,
he massacres this dog, and then ultimately becomes a wooden puppet again. So it's basically, he's like, okay,
because Pinocchio isn't interesting unless he's a puppet. It would be just boy in space.
Yes, boy, Pinocchio the boy.
Pinocchio
in space.
the boy.
And, well, honestly, it was just exposition to explain the fact that, okay, he's reverted back to his original puppet form, and that is why... Because I guess they needed an explanation to why he's still a wooden boy. It's not like a separate story. It's a continuation of the original story, I suppose.
Yeah.
So, it's like, and there's no Jiminy Cricket involved. Geppetto's in there.
Well, I was going to say, because this lifespan of a cricket is very, very short. Yeah. So this takes place... I don't know how long after the events of the book, or the movie.
There is absolutely no connection, but they're trying to make a connection somehow. Yeah. So it's the space age apparently. Like it is now the 60s. I mean, man has gone into space,
and there's televisions in an old Swiss village. Yeah. In forest, and then they still have these like little TVs on top of like wooden blocks.
I was saying it's like this is what Belgium looks like in like the 60s. I got an idea.
Let's do a space movie, but have it with Pinocchio. But Pinocchio takes place like in the early.
What kind of mindset? Like, how do you? I mean, look. I can understand there are things that we could do, like old fairy tales, and put them in a kind of modern setting. You know, it happened with like Treasure Planet. I mean, that's probably the best example that I can think of because honestly, I really like Treasure Planet. I like the idea of it. They took the idea of the book and turned it into a space sci-fi action thing.
Yeah,
and it fit because they really did well with it. This is like. Okay, let's talk about Pinocchio. Now it's the 1960s. Everyone's talking about radiation and the Cold War
bomb.
and Sputnik and space and everything and the moon. Let's somehow connect that character into this modern setting. So we go into this cottage, this little wooden cottage that Geppetto's in, and he's still making wooden
toys and clocks.
And
I mean, he even brings in a big wooden log at the beginning of the movie and says,
and he sells. He basically says like wooden things don't sell anymore.
Oh,
these
the old
days.
toys. You know, I'm building a spaceship. and so you come in and there's this really, like we said before, this really awful toy shop song that has nothing to do with anything.
Right, yeah.
And
we had to skip that so many times.
Because it started on the TV and it couldn't handle it. The TV was like, I can't, no, this song is bad, just stop. So we moved in here and then we just said, can we just...
Yeah, let's just skip it.
Skip the song.
This is just
We've
credits.
already heard half of the song.
This is really just credits.
Yeah.
And then it starts off with like, you know, Pinocchio is like learning...
Doing his homework, and it's like, I don't care about because he's doing his science homework.
Yeah, talking about Mars, how far Mars is
from Earth, and he's like,
sun, It basically is like, oh, he's still going to school and everything.
Right.
So.
And suddenly, as, you know, and in this story, Geppetto, instead of having a cat, has a dog named Fedora.
Fedora. Yeah. The dog's name is Fedora.
It's a female dog.
Female dog named Fedora.
Fedora.
Yeah.
Like the hat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So okay.
We both heard it. I mean, like, we didn't make this up.
It's either th or f. Fedora.
Okay, I'll on IMDb.
There's no voice. The dog doesn't talk. There's no cast listing.
Oh yeah, there isn't
for this dog.
Yeah.
So forget it. There's a dog. This dog serves absolutely no purpose in the movie, so it's okay. So in Geppetto's home, and he's like, Pinocchio, you gotta, and more exposition. And Pinocchio
and
is
the TV
annoying.
turns on. And,
by itself.
Yeah, and they basically talk about how there is a space whale
named Astro. The space whale, who has a large, exhaust pipe on the top where his spout is.
Yeah,
and he
it's
flies
a rocket whale. It's flying around in space, and they basically Earth can't go to space because every time there's a rocket that is sent into space, Astro just explodes it immediately. So it's like this is some sort of thing where it's like, oh, this is the problem that we have right now. We have a space whale,
a space embargo that's being enforced by a giant space whale. And so they're like, we can't launch any satellites into space. All of our
scientists don't know. I can't explain this. They don't know what's going on. They think it's like some weird evolution of a whale, like Monstro, I guess, turned into a space whale.
Well, yeah,
and yeah, that's basically it. It's like, okay, we're in a space race, but we can't go up there because there's a giant space communist whale
preventing us from doing anything.
Yeah.
So, but then that's just left behind for a minute, and then Pinocchio the next morning goes off to school.
It's like the TV just turned on to tell us that, and then it's like, oh well,
I
gotta go to school.
Thank you, expositional TV. But so then he goes off to school and he sings. And another thing too is
that's the only other song.
There's two other songs in this movie.
This is like they do
3 songs.
Do they do 3 songs?
Yeah, they do the credit song.
Okay,
they do. Then there's Pinocchio who sings this nonsensical
diddle doodle
dum day. I don't know, but it was a stupid I'm off to school and this is who I am kind of song. A very useless song.
Very.
And then while he's in the
you're right.
And then while he's going to school, he runs into the fox and the cat.
Basically, Honest John and
Gideon, the cat. But instead of in this movie, there's the fox, who's still a kind of Shakespearean kind of huckster fox. But the cat, for some reason, is this beatnik cat named, what was his name? Groovy?
Yeah, Groovy.
The cat's name was Groovy.
The cat, and he stuttered when he talked,
he was like
Groovy. It was like a very Hanna-Barbera-esque looking cat.
Not a very good, but so they just like in the Disney movie, Pinocchio runs into these two hucksters.
Yeah, he's about to go to school. He's doing the right thing.
And they have to explain again. But if I remembered, Pinocchio, you were a boy. You turned into a boy. No, I was bad. And it's like we heard that already.
Yes,
twice.
We know.
We know all about this.
We're the audience. We were watching this.
Yes. And so it's a lot of back and forth conversation that doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And then
he sings a song.
He sings a song about doing the impossible, which is a stupid song.
I don't know where that came from and what it's trying to do. It's like they were basically saying, it's like, yes, you can go to space by hypnotizing
the whale.
The whale. Well, okay, there was hang on. There's so many damn things that happen at once in this one scene. Pinocchio, I think okay, because Geppetto doesn't really have a whole lot of money. They exposit that Geppetto is losing money
because it's 1965 and no one's gonna buy cuckoo clocks and old wooden toys anymore.
So Pinocchio basically has it in his head that he can get a reward for getting the space whale, Astro, and apparently that will get him a lot of money or something, because that they said that there's a reward for his capture or something.
Yeah.
And he gets this idea because Honest John, or whatever the hell it was. The Fox. And his name is not Honest John, but it's certainly Honest John. So he basically sells him a
hypnotism book.
Hypnotism, how to hypnotize people. So he gives him that book. He gets the quarter from him that was given to him by Geppetto. It was like, oh, this was the only quarter. This is for your lunch. And
And there's a weird throwaway joke where he's like, wait a minute, the book is 15 cents, though.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, this is a single
You caught
issue.
that. I wouldn't really give a crap
I said
about
it because he's like, he's got a quarter, and then he takes the quarter, and then I said, wait a minute. The book says clearly on the front that's 15 cents. And then right after I say that, Pinocchio looks at the book and says, hey, but the cover says 15 cents. And the fox says, oh, because that's the subscription price or something. It's some weird... That was an attempt at a joke.
You have no idea how much dialogue goes on throughout the entire thing. It's like characters will talk over each other so many times.
And they'll repeat themselves.
You mentioned this, and it's a really good description. This is like a really well-animated Speed Racer episode.
Yeah.
Where characters will just like go on and on and on, but it's like they're moving really...
Show, not tell, guys.
Yeah, exactly. It was so terrible, and we never see them again after this. They're just like, okay, they sold the book. This is another, this is another thing that's going to happen later on in the movie. And it's okay. Now he's trying to learn hypnotism, and that's his plan. He's going to hypnotize.
You are a penguin.
He's going to hypnotize the space whale into coming, and I don't know how he's going to do it.
But he never. They don't. He's like, I'm going to hypnotize a space whale. I got this book on hypnotism.
Yeah.
And then he's like, there's no moment of like, okay, now I know how to hypnotize a space whale.
How the hell am I going to get?
How the hell am I going to go and get up there to actually hypnotize this whale?
Right.
So he's off, and then he thinks the space whale is attacking him.
Yeah, there's like a shadow chasing after him. There's about 5
Why
minutes.
is the shadow chasing him? He's running over woods, through woods, uphill, down, and the thing is chasing him.
Everything about this movie gives me a headache. Just like
no sense
watching it. Watching it was like it was amazing how nothing was being accomplished.
Right.
In such like a long amount of time.
Another thing too, and this happens throughout the movie. There's general rules in terms of storytelling, especially when it comes to storyboarding or just shot flow.
Yeah.
You know that progression goes one way or the other way. It goes to the left or to the right or whatever, for clarity's sake. This movie is so disorienting because for one scene, characters are going to be walking to the right, and the next scene they're walking to the left, but they're in a different place.
Yeah, it was edited.
Then they walk
pretty
back
weirdly.
the other way. It was edited really weirdly.
Yeah.
And it was very, very odd.
And there was no consistency either.
Yeah. So
it almost seemed like they would say something, and then later on, whatever they said was just like negated by whatever it was. For an example, it was like, Astro doesn't even come down to Earth. He's always just in space. There's no way that we can get him. And then he's being chased by Astro's shadow, or we're thought to see that it's Astro's shadow. And it's like, and it doesn't stop. Pinocchio doesn't stop to think. It's like, wait a minute. He doesn't come to Earth. He's up in space. It's just a way to like make us think, or the audience think, or the character to think, oh God, I'm being chased by a whale. I'm an idiot. I better run away from this thing. But anyway, okay, so
what happens is Pinocchio cowers and a spaceship lands.
Yeah.
And out of the spaceship comes
Jose Carioca.
What we think is Jose Carioca from Three Caballeros. I thought he was a parrot.
When I looked at that the poster, it really looks like a parrot.
A parrot.
Yeah, but then they mentioned that he's like, "Oh, my name is Nurdle, and I'm a space turtle." And I was
then I'm like, wait.
Why?
I guess you're a turtle, but
I can kind of see that. But honestly, on first look, he's a freaking parrot.
He's got a green head. He's got a yellow beak-ish area. It's a beak.
He doesn't really even have a shell. He doesn't
have a shell because he's in a spacesuit, and you don't see anything that even remotely even resembles a shell.
Yeah, it's a very weird design.
Yeah, and this character is the only recognizable voice in this entire movie.
Stang.
Is Arnold Stang, who's probably more famous for being Top Cat. For he was in the movie It's a Mad, 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 Mad World.
Yeah,
one of the guys.
He's a very well-known comedian.
Very well-known comedian and voice actor.
Yeah.
And he is this character, Nurdle the Turtle.
I feel like he almost improv'd everything.
Even the poster that I got from Zoe and Jake said with Arnold Stang as Nurdle the Turtle.
Yeah, he got top billing.
He got top billing in this.
Yeah.
Because it was probably post... I don't know what show he was in. Besides Top Cat. I don't know what he was famous before
I'm sure
that.
he's been in a ton of TV series. I just can't think of him off the top of my head.
So Nurdle lands, and there's this weird interaction with Pinocchio.
Yeah, it's like, I guess
very
it's
back and forth.
Well, he's there because he missed Mars.
Yeah.
So he's apparently a secret agent, and he even says like, "Can you keep a secret?" And he like just whispers to Pinocchio about his. I'm supposed to be investigating Mars over some sort of weird radiation that's happening.
He was sent by his government to investigate the odd occurrences on Mars.
I love how
he just tells a random wooden boy that he lands on the wrong planet.
He tells the first person he sees on Earth.
And he thinks he's so wise and smart.
Yeah.
But so, and he convinces, after all this back and forth, he convinces Pinocchio says, "Oh, I can hypnotize the space whale."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh my God, how am I going to be doing my research now if there's a space whale going around?"
There's some off comment about how it's like, "Oh, but you can't go back. There's a space whale that's keeping people from going back into space." "Oh, but I know how to hypnotize him." There is absolutely no reason why he has to be there, because even when they go out, they don't run into Astro at all.
Yeah.
They just like easily go straight to Mars.
And here comes another thing too. There's a moment where we're like, is this an educational film?
Oh yes. While they're going to Mars, it's like they're spouting out facts
about Mars and about space travel and
look, there's the biggest canal on Mars.
The blankety blank.
The blank blank. I can't even remember because they say it so fast that and over each other that you don't get this information. There's like factual things about like Mars and space and everything, but it's like they just like say like, "Oh look, those are the two moons on Mars."
That's right. Their names are blank and blank.
And they say it so fast that I don't even remember what they were.
Like, and the thing is, most people. And it's also, the weird thing is, it's almost mistrued, because then after they spout a fact, like something like, "Oh, there's less gravity on Mars, so we can jump over to that." They land, they get to Mars,
right?
And they land.
It took a hell of a long time.
It's a hell of a long time, and then there's a moment where Pinocchio's like, "But it's like, okay, and I'm gonna go over and investigate that mountain," and Pinocchio's like, "Then why don't you just?" I mean, most people would think. It always bugged me in a cartoon or a movie when someone parks a car or lands a helicopter. It's always got to be really far from the place they actually have to be at.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm going to go over to that mountain. It's like, why go...
It's actually closer because Mars is smaller than Earth. And I'm like...
It's smart, and the horizon's closer. And and the gravity. And I'm like...
What kind of effect is that?
It's just like, are you just trying to find a way to have a moment where they're bouncing for a few minutes?
Yeah.
And you just need to explain why.
Everything they do takes like so long.
It was
it was really annoying, and just like I'm trying to wrap my head, because like I'm trying to think like of the things that happen in this movie. They go to Mars, they spout a bunch of facts. They talk about the horizon and how they have to leap over to it. It's like, the gravity is...
Like Mars is smaller than Earth. And
and then they jump around, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, a giant crab has a rocket ship. What the hell?
Yeah.
What? If you're going to, like, spout facts about Mars, now we have a giant crab
issue?
And then an even bigger crab comes in and fights with the smaller giant crab. And this is so like...
It's really disorienting.
My mind exploded at this point, because all of a sudden it turned into like a Harryhausen sci-fi film where like monsters will fight in the distance while our main characters will watch it. And we're watching them watch that.
Yeah. And it's weird because they talk the whole time and everything, and then there's just this giant...
now suddenly there's another giant crab.
Yeah, suddenly a giant space crab battle. And they get their
giant
spaceship and they fly away to what looks like a city.
Yeah.
And they even say, like, they're trying to say, what could have possibly done to the city? Could it be this? No, this, no. And they're just rapidly talking, and they're like, just show it. Don't tell it. Don't try to explain things that are going on.
I find it funny that everything that Pinocchio is saying to Nerdle is
a wild...
Well, it's like, it's a wild theory of what has been happening, and then Nerdle just, like, poo-poos it, like, oh, that's silly, that could never happen, there couldn't be giant crabs here, oh, what could possibly be so powerful
Ursa Minor, a giant crab. And that's also, by the way, throughout this entire movie, whenever there's
that's his catchphrase.
That's his catchphrase, like when he's exclaiming something, he goes, Ursa Minor or Ursa Major, look at that. And it's like, oh. So they get to this Martian city.
Yeah, this Martian city, which is deserted. We haven't seen one Martian whatsoever.
Single Martian.
It's just like basically a dead city. It's like...
Yeah. So they land down below, and they go into this building, and then they keep going. They're just walking through this thing, and they keep changing directions, walking left or right. Yeah. So you don't know where they are
in this cavern. I don't know where they go. There's just like backgrounds,
and they're explaining like, oh, that's where the radiation's coming from, because he's got his little radiation monitor thing.
Oh my God, it's a giant monster. And oh, that must be how they're getting bigger because of the radiation.
There's tiny crabs and tiny scorpions and things. It's like the radiation must have made him bigger. But who could have done this? And they never explain it. And then at a certain point, while all this is going on, sand fills up the exit. The cave, and then Pinocchio's like, "Oh no, the Martians! They want to trap us!" And they leave. They find a way to escape. And there's a million. First of all, they're trying to escape. Earthquake. They're escaping the sand.
Yeah, there's
an earthquake. The ground is breaking out from underneath them.
Yeah, there's a bunch of monsters
and they're being attacked by giant monsters all at the same time, and it's just an assault on the senses. Like, wait, it's bad enough that they have one problem to deal with, the sand filling up the place.
Yeah.
But now they also have giant monsters and earthquakes and the ground breaking underneath them and giant rocks falling from the ceiling to crush them.
Myrtle? I think the Martians are up to no good.
Oh, nonsense. I'm sure there's a perfectly logical, scientific explanation behind this. Obviously, these Martians, whoever they are, wherever they are...
I'll tell you why. Because they want to destroy the whole world and take it over themselves. And that's why they're mutating giant animals to smash everything. And the man on television said Astro was a mutation from another planet. I'll bet Astro got mad at being cooped up and escaped and turned on his masters and destroyed the Martian city and all the Martians.
Oh, that's the silliest thing I ever heard. I suppose next you'll tell me that Astro was raised right in this little canal.
All of this seems to be happening just to happen. You know, it's like, okay, suddenly an earthquake. Oh my God, the earthquake. Everything is like crashing over itself. Why did that happen? There was no reason for it. It's just like, all of a sudden we need an action scene. We have to show danger. They have to get out of there. Oh no, they're being chased by monsters. Oh God, we're going up the stairs into the surface again, where there's now a sandstorm, and we have to escape because the place is going to explode. Well, how is it?
No, they don't even say that it's going to explode.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
They just escape. It's like we got to get it because it's buried.
They escape, and then this huge explosion. Mushroom cloud.
Very well animated atomic explosion.
It was like we were
Where
looking
did that
at each
come
other.
from?
We were looking at each other, saying it's like, wow, that was really sudden and dark.
Yeah.
You know, it was like all of a sudden this really well animated, very realistic looking mushroom cloud explodes this Martian city that they basically said is like, oh, they were making all these giant monsters to destroy Earth or something. That is never...
They don't really properly explain
they
why
don't.
The Martians or whoever they are
Pinocchio just says
build these giant monsters.
Yeah, Pinocchio, while they're exploring, Pinocchio just says this offhanded thing. Is like, I bet you anything that the Martians were trying to use the radiation to make all these monsters big and then send them off to Earth. And then Nerl's like, oh, that's silly. That
happens like 25,000 times in this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, and also...
they do mention, though, because there's like, I guess... That's how Astro came to be, because you see Astro other whales
claim is out for revenge.
I don't know how he's out for revenge.
I don't know. He's just an angry, pissed off.
But he was made by the Martians.
Mutant whale. And even they have a whole thing about mutants. They even say like, he's a mutant whale. What does that mean? Well, he's different. He's different.
I thought it was funny that like the first time he mentioned, it's like, there's a lot of radiation coming from here, and it's like, I was just thinking, it's like,
you're gonna die.
You probably only have moments to live now that you have been suffering so much radiation poisoning.
Yeah.
Just being in this cave.
And the thing that we noticed is that they use the same music over and over again, and we realized, we're like, wait a minute, is that like the Ren and Stimpy music?
Yeah.
It's royalty-free APM production music?
Yeah, it's production music. And a lot of it you'll hear from like Ren and Stimpy and stuff. And I think it's all just basically from
libraries.
APM music.
Yeah.
It's like we can't really pay for an orchestra or anything. We can't have an original score.
We could pay for 3 really mediocre songs.
Yeah, and there's quite a few. Yeah, exactly. Those three songs, and that was our music budget.
Yeah,
so,
and it's animated fairly well. The movie, except that the lip sync is really weird. I mean, because we thought that was this dubbed at the beginning? We're like, is this dubbed from another language? Because it was a Belgian movie, but then we realized it was a Belgian American co-production.
Yeah, so they probably did animate it to the American lip sync, but yeah, if it's animated in Belgian, I'm sure they don't really know how
to trying to match phonetically.
Yeah. Because I remember that being a problem for a Goofy movie, because that was like animated in France, wasn't it?
A lot of it was animated in France.
Yeah, so it's like they had like a lot of problem trying to sync the animation with the mouth movements because it's different phonetics. So
yeah,
so it's like they really needed like a chart of different mouth movements for certain words that they would say. So it's like, okay, we need to remember this is the mouth for this sort of word sound. And they didn't have that for this movie. So it was off quite a bit. And even sometimes they would even cut away from the animation just so a character would talk like outside while this character is also expressing towards whatever they're saying. It's like, okay, let's cut to the dog. The dog have any lip sync.
And he just like makes these confused faces, just like the rest of the audience.
This movie, I mean, I honestly, I'm still baffled by how this was made, because halfway through it, when they get to Mars, it really reminded me of a lot of 60s Universal sci-fi B-movie things.
We realized it was distributed by Universal.
Yeah, it was
made by Universal, technically.
And it reminded me of This Island Earth.
Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden they're on the planet and they're just like exploring it, and there are these aliens around, and they even have like those Harryhausen moments where it's like the stop motion animation monsters fighting each other, but it was animated.
Yeah.
But it was like almost exactly like that. It was like, let's make a B movie, but let's make it
felt like an animated parody of a live action cheap sci-fi movie.
This is probably one of the only animated movies that I can honestly say this needed to be on Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yeah.
Because it just, everything about it is like a really bad sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
Only it's with animated characters. And it's almost to the letter, like a lot of things that happen.
Yeah.
And so anyway, the whole whatever on Mars exploded, and they're going back to Earth.
Yeah, and the weird thing is also, not to go back again, but the movie feels like 2 different movies. Mm-hmm. Like on Earth, it's like this happy musical, and there's musical numbers and stuff.
Yeah, there is.
Then they go to Mars, and they spend half the movie in space and on Mars, and then it just turns into this very drab, dreary, kind of not a very happy movie.
Yeah.
And they do all this stuff with the crabs and then down in the thing, and then
the sci-fi, the radiation,
the explosion, all this stuff. And then they get back in the spaceship, and I guess they're at Mars, and it's like, I don't remember why we're here. Oh yeah, we were investigating something.
Yeah.
But now the city's destroyed, so I guess we should go now. And then they run into, in space,
Astro,
and they get swallowed by Astro.
Swallowed. It's basically
deja frickin' vu for Pinocchio.
It's like all of a sudden they remembered, oh yeah, the story of Pinocchio. Let's have Pinocchio in space being swallowed by a space whale.
And he even says he gets swallowed by the space whale, and they're like, now what do we do? And they're floating inside the whale.
Yeah.
And even Pinocchio's like, I was swallowed by a whale before. I wish there was a moment where like Nerdle just turns to him and just goes, oh, lucky you. Struck by lightning twice. Great. So then he's having this moment, and then he's like, what do I do? And then the blue fairy appears. Deus Ex Machina blue fairy comes in, just like in the book and in the movie. Mm-hmm. And she's there talking to Pinocchio, and Pinocchio's talking to her. Mm-hmm. And Nerdle is right there. And supposedly Nerdle doesn't see any of this.
Yeah, he basically says, like, stop talking to yourself.
And the blue fairy, says, Pinocchio, you've been lying, and you now look at the trouble you're in. Now, you didn't go to school.
He didn't go to
and look
all
what
of this
happened. I just love
because
that.
he didn't go to school.
It's like, you were just asked to go to school, and look what happens. You end up in space with Jose Carioca Turtle inside the belly of a giant mutant Martian space whale. You royally fucked up, Pinocchio. You are an awful boy.
Listen. Did you hear that?
Hear what?
There it is again. That's the blue fairy.
Sure it is, and I'm Queen of the Moon. Whoops!
That's just the whole movie.
All you had to do was go to school, and now look at you. You're in space inside a space whale. You freaking idiot.
Great job.
Good job.
So she's like, I'm going to help you get out of here. Now, let me give you a hand.
Yeah,
Now,
she gives him hints. She's like, what is different from a whale compared to all the fish in the sea? And I immediately said, like, it's a mammal.
Yeah.
It's not a fish.
Yeah. And it's so funny because, like, I guess we're trying to bring back the thing of, like, because at the beginning of the movie, Pinocchio's like, oh, I hate doing this homework.
Yeah.
It's unnecessary. Why do I need it anyway? And then she's like, I'll help you out of this death-defying situation if you answer this question. If a train is leaving Chicago...
This question 3.
If a train's leaving Chicago at 5:45 p.m., like a question like that, and he's like, what makes a whale different from all the other fish in the sea? And he's like, let me see. It
has
even you cut to the fairy just sort of like, Pinocchio, this is really freaking easy. Just answer the damn question. And he's like, oh, it has a spout.
Yeah.
It
has a blowhole.
It has a blowhole. We could get out of the blowhole.
Yeah, let's
so
go out of the damn blowhole.
So they leave.
Well, it's funny to me that they made that assertion because earlier he said, like, the way we escaped was through the mouth. And then Nerdle was like...
He sleeps with his mouth
He sleeps
open.
with his mouth closed.
And then Nerdle says, oh, but Astro sleeps with his mouth closed.
Yeah.
And I said, an hour ago, you didn't even know that the space whale even existed. Pinocchio told me about this space whale. What? Space whale? Why didn't you say so?
Yeah.
So now he just assumes, I mean...
There's a lot of stuff like that where it's just like there's no consistency, so they kind of negate whatever the hell they
did
said
before.
earlier.
And so they escape out of the blowhole.
They go out the blowhole.
And they notice that, oh no, why are we moving so erratically now? And the
tail,
the rudder, like the dorsal fin part of the spaceship, is bent in a curve. So now they're moving in kind of like a circular pattern,
in a spiral
pattern. So
they're being chased now by
Astro.
And it's like every time I say Astro, I keep thinking of the Jetsons now.
Like the dog is chasing them.
So but they're being chased by the Monstro space whale, and the entire time Pinocchio's like looking through his
hypnotism book,
and he's like, "Hey, you're a penguin! You're a penguin! You're like a statue!"
And it's not working. And he's like, "Is it working yet?" And you just see the whale getting closer, and there's no response. Mm-hmm. And then, since the spaceship is moving in a spiraling,
so.
And even reads in the book, if that doesn't work, use something in a spiral, a brightly colored object moving in a circle.
Yeah, and here's the thing: it's like you predicted that way before it actually happened.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, they're moving, and it's going to hypnotize the whale.
Yeah,
and lo and behold, it did.
Yeah.
So the whale gets hypnotized by the spaceship, and then I guess,
they're on their way to Earth.
They hypnotize the whale, and then the whale is bringing them to Earth. I guess they told.
Yeah, I guess like since they hypnotized the whale, now the whale is like going towards space,
and they're tied to the whale's tail now.
Yeah,
and they're going towards Earth.
It's so
and there's the atmosphere, and they're burning up in the atmosphere. And they're like, oh no.
Like, oh no, Astro's going so fast into Earth that we're burning up. We're going to die. We're going to explode in fire.
So they have to slow down the whale so it doesn't just hit the planet.
And the only way that they can do that is so the blowhole on Astro is like a pipe. It's kind of like a jet,
like a jet engine, yeah.
And it's like bent in a way where it's like
a bendy straw coming out of this blowhole.
Exactly. So what they're trying to do, it's so weird because it's like they look at each other like they know what they're gonna do, But I didn't know what they were going to do. I was like, what the hell are they trying to do?
And then, Pinocchio
winking to each
says...
other.
Also, Pinocchio can breathe because he's a puppet.
Oh,
so
yeah, he can breathe in space.
Yeah.
Because
awesome.
They even mentioned that, several times. Anything that can be told visually is being told to you by one of the characters.
Multiple times.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
So anyway, they take the hook, but this is one of the things where they don't even say what they're gonna do.
But he's like, I got an idea, and he's like, where are you going? And he's like, I know what to do. Pull up the rope when I give you the signal. And he's like, the signal what? And then he goes, oh, as if he gets it, and then he drops the anchor.
Yeah.
And then in my mind, I'm like, what clue was that? Oh, drop the anchor. Yeah. So Pinocchio goes down and attaches, I guess, the anchor to
the tailpipe.
Tailpipe, and they pull it up. Mm-hmm. And I guess they pull it up too fast, and Pinocchio gets blasted with radiation, I guess?
He just explodes, but he's intact.
Yeah.
He's just now a shade of blue for some reason.
Right.
So it's basically to say, oh, God.
Yeah, either way,
he got hit by the fire, and now he's dead.
Yeah. And the whale is slowed down.
The whale slowed down, and I guess that worked. And now they're on... Well, I guess they got to Earth at that point. We get that really somber moment where we're in Geppetto's shop. Pinocchio is dead on the bed, just like the Walt Disney picture, and all the characters are surrounded the bed and they're crying.
It's actually more like the Snow White scene, because there's even a moment where Nerdle does the grumpy thing where he turns away into the wall and goes, yeah, and cries.
Yeah. This entire thing reminded me, because we recently watched the Walt Disney documentary on PBS, that two-parter...
The 4-hour documentary about Walt Disney.
Yeah, it was like the All-American...
American Experience.
American Experience. And it's a great documentary, by the way. If you haven't seen it yet...
We should do a cast just about that.
Yeah, exactly. If you haven't seen it, you should.
It's on the PBS website.
Yeah, and if you... There was something about that where they were talking about how Walt Disney, before he decided to make the movie... Well, he wanted to make the movie of Snow White, and he wanted to say, I want to make a cartoon that basically makes people cry. I want to have them, show emotion.
I want them to cry.
Yeah, man. If I'm in the heart.
Right in the heart.
No, and it was it was great, because it's Snow White is a great example of that. It shows all the kind of emotions that you would not see in a cartoon before that, where it was cartoons are meant to make you laugh. They're supposed to be...
They're novelties. They amuse you.
Yeah. And then Snow White comes along, and it's basically about, love and fear and
your suspension of disbelief is so sustained that you believe in these drawings. Feeling these emotions. So when Snow White is dead,
you really
think she's dead, and you cry,
and you feel bad for it,
and you sympathize,
and you see all the characters crying around, and you're like, oh, I really sympathize with that, and this is a very sad, touching moment.
Yeah,
this movie has that moment, but there is absolutely nothing to feel for it.
Right.
It's just it's coming. Pinocchio is going to come back to life because the Blue Fairy said so, and it's just
and just like in the movie, she comes down and says, Pinocchio, you have proven yourself.
Yes, yeah.
By bringing to Earth a giant space whale. I guess that proves you are brave, truthful, and unselfish.
You are brave, truthful, and unselfish. Here you go. You're a boy now.
And he wakes up and they all celebrate.
Geppetto is
and then they have a whole... I guess
there's a carnival
and
that happens
and they
afterwards.
tie Astro, and he's just a giant balloon.
Yeah, he's like a big blimp, just kind of dumbfounded in the air.
He's just like, I'm fine with this.
Yeah, this is my life now.
And so Nerdle leaves, and he's like, oh, we'll see each other again.
Oh, wait a minute. I want to go back to a line that they said, Nerdle said.
Oh, God.
Before they left the spout. And I wrote this down because this is probably one of the best lines of the movie. And it's like they say on my planet, nothing ventured is two in the bush. I was like, what the hell does that mean?
I think that explains the entire movie.
Nothing ventured is two in the bush.
Do what happened? This movie made us bushed.
Yeah. Oh, this was it.
So he goes on, and then that's it. That's the end of the movie.
That's the end of the movie. Nerdle. Or wait a minute. Nerdle flies off, and his catchphrase, like, what was it?
Ursa Minor.
Ursa Minor. And we have to look this up because, like, Pinocchio says, what does Ursa Minor mean? And Nerdle says, like, the Little Dipper. And then you says, like, no, it means little bear.
Yeah.
And you're probably right.
I don't know if Ursa Major and Ursa Minor mean the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper, if it's just the same just a different name. Mm-hmm. And he's screaming. He's already in a spaceship that has a very loud engine.
Yeah, you're right. It's Ursa Major, Ursa Minor, also known as Great Bear.
And smaller bear.
Charles's Wain? What the hell? Also known as the Great Bear and Charles's Wain.
Maybe it's a type. I don't know.
Anyway, but it is a constellation. So
right. But it's not the Little Dipper.
No, it's not. It's not.
And he's like, the Little Dipper. It's like, yeah. And then he goes, and then Pinocchio turns and he's like, I'm going to study hard and not just in science, but in all my subjects. And at the same time, I'm just thinking, Geppetto, I learned something today. I know what Ursa Minor means now. Oh, that's his lesson. And then it's the end of the movie. And we looked at each other. Literally, every time they'd spout some dialogue, like every 30 seconds, we would both silently just turn at the same time towards each other just looking in each other's eyes and being like, are we really watching this?
Yeah. There were a lot of moments where we were just questioning. It's like, I think we made a big mistake watching this.
Thank you so much, Zoe and Jake, for inspiring us to watch this awful movie. Like,
yeah.
And the thing is, it's weird because there's things about this movie that I admire. Like, I think it's when you start saying that the best thing about the movie is the background design, that's when you know, okay, the story wasn't good enough.
Here's the thing: it's like what I really liked about the movie is that the style of it really reminded me of like a mix between Fleischer cartoons and Hanna-Barbera. It was like almost like a mashup of those two styles.
Even though Geppetto looked like the professor from the Felix the Cat cartoons.
Well, he kind of did.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like, I didn't really have a whole lot of problems with
the design.
The design was okay.
Except for Pinocchio looks like Richie Rich with a cork on his nose.
Yeah, you're right. And there was even that moment where he has, like, the devil and the angel, like, telling him what to do. And I was like, oh, that's Red Hot.
Or Hot Stuff.
Oh, Hot Stuff. That's his name, yeah. And oh, hey, there's Casper.
He looks like, it's weird because, like, Pinocchio looks like Richie Rich, but he also kind of looks like Beanie from Beanie and Cecil, yet he also kind of looks the Bazooka Joe. Like, he's just a very amalgam. He's a blonde-haired
the American
Pinocchio.
Boy.
Yeah.
It went...
Gee Willikers, kind of thing.
Yeah. Even says that, I think.
I don't know.
Oh.
I tuned out a lot
I
of
thought it was funny, like, in the end of the movie, we come back to the Blue Fairy and her mom, and there's another thing that flies by them, and it's like, oh, goes another one. Yes, Mother, there's another one going right there.
Pinocchio's story isn't over.
Pinocchio's story is not over, and then the narrator over the end thing is like, this is not the end for Pinocchio. It's like, what does that imply?
There's more?
Yeah.
I mean,
this is a true story if you're a wooden boy.
If you're a wooden boy.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Let's just go right to the best and the worst.
The best and the worst. All right. So, Mike, what would you say? Should we start with the best on this one, or should we go with the worst first?
Let's start with the best this time.
Start with the best? All right. What would you say is the best thing about Pinocchio in outer space?
I like how amused we were with each other watching it. No, but like... Really, the background design it felt like a 1930s cartoon. Like, the backgrounds looked very painterly and really nicely done.
Yeah.
The space stuff, the city stuff, even the stuff in the forest at the beginning of the movie. Mm-hmm. Good background stuff.
Yeah.
And I like Arnold Stang. I like him as an actor.
Yeah, I mean, like, Arnold Stang as a voice and as an actor is really good.
His character is stupid.
But he keeps saying things that are... It's like, he won't stop talking. So it's like, I can't get a word in. And a lot of the things, it just feels like he's just saying it because the mouth is flapping,
Yeah.
So, I mean, Arnold Stang is all right. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. So... I mean, he was a good choice for the character.
Yeah.
I just wish he was a parrot.
It should have been Top Cat in outer space. It pretty much was Top Cat in outer space.
Yeah. And okay, well, the best thing for me in this movie is honestly the idea that this was like, I can't help but feel this was intentionally made as a B movie, like a B movie, like a sci-fi action thriller, like let's make a sci-fi movie for kids.
It has a little bit of everything, like Attack of the Giant Monster movie.
Yeah.
It's got a bit of
and I keep going back, it's like
movie.
This Island Earth, and I keep thinking about Mystery Science Theater. I was like, this would be an awesome movie to riff on. It even has moments where it's like characters will not talk, and then there's something happening. It's like there's moments where it's like we were riffing on it to each other while we were watching this, and it was like would be a perfect movie for Mystery Science Theater. So honestly, I like it for that. There's a lot of dumb B movies that I love just for the fact that they're so stupid to watch. It makes it funny.
I think it's just funny because, like, with live action film, it's kind of, you have bad actors and bad reading and bad writing.
Right.
In animation, you have to plan all of that out.
Yeah.
Like, you can't animate something until you have the script written.
Yeah.
They approved all of this before they went down and had Belgian animators sitting down to animate this. And first of all, they probably didn't understand what any of the jokes meant.
Right.
If there were any jokes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm already telling you what's bad about that. I'm telling now what's my worst.
Okay.
It's just
so what is the worst?
For me, it's just, well, Pinocchio is annoying.
Yeah.
Because at least the thing about it is that, I mean, even in Pinocchio, in the original Disney film,
Pinocchio.
Jiminy Cricket.
Jiminy Cricket
is really the kind of the star of the movie.
Yeah,
and he's kind of guiding Pinocchio. Pinocchio is the main character in the movie, but really it's really the story of Jiminy Cricket teaching Geppetto Jiminy Cricket teaching Pinocchio to be on the straight and narrow. Geppetto is not involved in any way. But in this movie,
is a story about Jiminy Cricket teaching Honest John how to
catch Stromboli from the giant whale. No, but in this movie, I guess Nerdle takes the place of.
I guess so.
I just love the idea of that. Someone had to think like, so Pinocchio goes to space, but who does he go to space with? How about a giant, a talking space turtle? That's perfect.
That has his own government.
It has his own government.
He's a secret agent.
There's the planets are Turtle D and Turtle Dumb, or Tweedle, like Tweedle.
Yeah, Turtle D and Turtle Dumb. I forgot about that. Wow.
That's a sad planet.
Yeah, that's really bad.
Which turtle are you from?
Which turtle are you?
Which Tweedle are you from? Dumb.
I'm from Dumb.
Yeah, we don't like those dumbs.
We are the Tweedles that D. Yeah. We don't like the Tweedles that dumb. It's like a Dr. Seuss novel.
Yeah, they butter their bread on the top side and bread on the bottom. But yeah, it is just overall just a poorly written, misguided movie. Like it's very disorienting, and
it is.
The dialogue is pretty all over the place.
Yeah. The worst thing for me, honestly, is just the whole concept of bringing back the fox and the cat, like Honest John and Gideon, but now he's groovy. So it was a sign of the times. It's like, oh, those beatniks, they're so hilarious. Let's make a character out of it. And that's dumb. Really all the characteristic it has. Like, oh, it's a beatnik.
Because the fox is
named Groovy.
The fox is really no different.
No, he isn't.
It's just the cat.
Yeah.
Let's make the cat a beatnik. Why? Because beatniks are a thing now.
Yeah, exactly. It's a sign of the times.
Yeah.
Same with the TV and the whole thing about space. But yeah, I the entire time I was watching that cat and I was just thinking to myself, I was like, there's nothing funny about this character.
Why are you here?
It's just like, the only reason they were there was because of the whole hypnotism thing, and I guess they were tricking Pinocchio into giving the money for this hypnotism thing, so he can hypnotize the space whale into flying into Earth. I understand like the logic behind everything, but the journey to that was almost like non-existent until the end of the entire picture.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, now he has a hypnotism book, but let's forget that for the next 40 minutes while we go to Mars and talk about aliens and Martians and radiation and giant mutants.
Space crabs.
And giant space crab. Here comes the giant enemy crab.
Here comes the giant long-necked lizard.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really weird.
Yeah.
A lot of that really reminded me of Fleischer-esque stuff, too. It's like, but, yeah, man,
there's really nothing much else I could say about it.
No,
all I could say is it's on YouTube.
Yes.
Pinocchio in outer space.
If you really are curious, you have to see this movie. It is like, well, if you can sit through it. I mean, there was a lot of moments where
Let
I'm
us
just
know
like,
how far you get.
If it were up to me, if we didn't have to watch this movie, I probably would have turned it off at the 5-minute mark.
Again, this episode is dedicated to Zoe Moss and Jacob Strick. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the poster.
We love you guys.
Which I will. No, I'm serious though. That poster is really cool.
Yeah, it is.
And I love. I'm gonna hang it at my house.
Yeah, it's a neat classic movie poster.
And I can look at that poster and remember watching this movie with you and being like,
This was easily the worst movie that we've seen since we've started this, and that's saying a lot, because there are a lot of movies where we can say a lot of good things about. You know, I mean, like, there are movies that generally are not considered good animated movies, but we have good things to say about it because, you know, there really are good qualities to it. This one, not so much.
Yeah.
I really, there's not a whole lot of good that I can say about it, but there are still good things to it. But I mean, not a lot.
Right? Like, I mean, like
This
even the sake of it being like an amusing bad movie, like a bad movie that you just watch because you know it's bad and you want to be amused by it.
Yeah, exactly.
But is it a movie that you're amused by for how bad it is? Mm-hmm. Like the fact that we watch this movie.
That's another. That's the thing that I wanted to ask you. Would you say that this is a so bad it's good movie? That's
would just it. I'm bordering on the line for that one.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like with this movie, I could see like a commentary track to it, like a riff track to it. But if I were to get a bunch of friends over to watch this movie because we know it's bad, I would honestly say no. I would not unleash this on friends because this is pretty mind-bendingly bad.
And we've seen some movies like this. We've seen like I remember for a while we were watching some movies like every other weekend we watched a movie and like we'd watch a movie like one I grew up with was David and the Magic Pearl, which is very similar to this.
That movie I would say is a great movie to unleash on a bunch of friends because it's fun to watch because it's so bad.
And the animation's so odd.
Yeah, and also the Elm Chanted Forest, which I will show everyone. I've
seen that movie more times than most people would need to.
Same here.
I've seen it now twice.
I've seen it 3 times. Well, no, 4 times. It's like I saw it in my childhood. I saw it again with you, and then we unleashed it on a couple of our friends.
That was 3.
3 times. And probably like twice I've unleashed this on friends. And one time with you, actually, watching it again. And
then so I've seen it twice just with you.
So I've seen that movie more than you had.
That'll be one that we should do for this one.
Yeah.
Day.
Oh yeah. I think that's
same with David and the Magic Pearl.
Yeah.
Which is that's one I had on VHS as a kid.
Yeah.
And this movie, I can't imagine anybody. I mean, there's no VHS, there's no DVD,
there's no documentation about this movie existing, except for IMDb and Wikipedia.
You could probably get this movie. Maybe they probably had it in a bargain bin somewhere, and someone uploaded it. Somebody uploaded it
because it's like in the public domain for the longest time. I'm sure.
Yeah, probably.
But as far as like finding it on eBay or Amazon, it's like I have absolutely.
It took you a while just to find a copy, and even then you found those parts on YouTube.
And I was surprised at...
And the movie's actually fairly short. It just doesn't feel short.
No, it doesn't. Like, we saw it, like, what? It was 7 parts.
7 parts,
each
each was 10 minutes, so it's an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah. No.
We spent a half an hour alone on Earth hearing these dumb songs and characters just talking but not going anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they go into space.
Yeah. So there's moments where it's like nothing's happening.
Yeah.
Just move on, please.
Yeah.
Show, don't tell.
And this was the first film, or the second film distributed by Universal.
The
first was The Snow Queen, which is the Russian Snow Queen, which is a beautiful movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's a movie that we should definitely watch.
Yeah, sir.
It's a lot better than Frozen. I'm just going to say that. It's the quintessential version of The Snow Queen.
Okay.
And then they did this, and then it was their last movie that that Universal distributed until American Tail. So 20 to 25 years later,
something like that.
distribute and produce American Tail. After seeing this movie and be like,
it's like, okay,
never again.
I think the time has passed enough that we can actually make another animated film.
All the people who were part of the crew at Universal when they distributed Pinocchio in outer space are no longer with the company.
Oh my god, but this movie, I really can't say it's hilariously bad. There's a lot of really weird things to it, but to get to that point, it's like it's such a slog. You know, it just keeps. And there's some pretty funny moments in it. It's just like it's unintentionally funny moments.
Yeah,
it's just like you don't.
It's
really
funny because it's like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, moving on.
Yeah.
But it's not. There's not enough what the hell was that moments to really justify.
So I would say that this is probably one of our first major movies.
Yeah.
That we could really. I don't really think anyone should watch this thing.
Yeah, I don't believe in voting.
If you want to, it's on YouTube, but yes.
I don't believe in voting on a scale.
Mm-hmm.
But if there was if we had a 1 to 10 scale here, it would easily be like a 2.5 or a 3.
Wow, really? A 2.5 out of what? 10?
10.
Wow.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. I would have given it a 1, honestly. Personally, because I'm like, I don't want to watch this ever again. If I ever had to watch this movie again, there better be a riff tracks on it.
There better be food.
Yeah,
it's the only reason.
exactly.
It's the only reason I'll be sitting and watch this movie to make sure that there's plenty of double stuffed Oreos and some soda.
Yeah. Well, that was our consensus on Pinocchio in outer space.
And like we always say here on Animated Anarchy, what is the phrase again?
What?
The phrase that Nerdle says.
Oh yes, nothing ventured is 2 in the bush.
And we got 2 in the bush today with Pinocchio in outer space.
Yeah. So if you really liked this podcast episode, please like us on or subscribe to us on iTunes, and we're also on Stitcher. And please also give us a favorable review about what you thought about what we thought and what you like about our podcast. Yeah, I mean, give us a good bunch of stars on there.
And please watch this movie. Only because
now you're unleashing it on
I want to share it.
We've already said that. I've already said that I don't think anyone should watch this. But
please,
now you're saying you want other people to hurt.
I think people are going to be curious enough by us being like, don't watch this movie.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
It's reverse psychology.
Listen.
But please, I want people to watch this movie just so I can like, just on Twitter to someone, just literally, I'll say it to everybody, just 3 words. I know, right?
Yeah.
That part with the thing, that was weird. I know, right?
Yeah. Speaking of Twitter and Facebook, we are on
Twitter and Facebook.
We are on Twitter and Facebook. You can like us on our Facebook page, which is Animated Anarchy Cast, and that's where you can best contact us about any suggestions or any comments about the movie that we just talked about. And also, we're on Twitter. Mike, you're on at a guy who draws.
A guy who draws.
And I am at AWD Twit. And you can also follow us there. And but to best contact us about the podcast itself would be on the Facebook page.
Yes.
So please like us and also subscribe to us again on iTunes and Stitcher. And I that's really all we can say now. And with that, we really hope you enjoy watching this movie on YouTube. Because we know that you're going to go on YouTube right now, look this movie up, watch it for 10 minutes, and say, like, what have you done? to us.
No, it's just going to be nope, and then just immediately the mouse is going to go right to the X.
Nope.
Nope.
All right, this has been Animated Anarchy. I'm Andrew Dickman.
And I'm Mike Ruocco.
We'll see you again next time.
Hopefully.
Yes, see you around.
Bye-bye.
I love that.
You know, I got a funny story about that. I knew a kid in elementary school who, whenever things wouldn't go his way, he would be like,
Just wheeze.
No! He'd make this horrible
Sound like a horse,
No!
like a horse basset hound, like trying to howl.
No! I'm ready. Bubbles!
Yeah, we're gonna do that again, are we? Nothing ventured is two in the bush.
Nothing ventured is two in the bush.
Oh, jeez.
The password is nothing ventured. The clue, the answer to the Jeopardy question is, what character said, two in the hand is something gained? I don't know.
Oh, man. Two in the hand is something gained.
Two in the hand is something gained. True. If you have two things in your hand, you definitely gain something.
While wishing one hand and crap on the other. And see which one fills up first.
Don't be pissing in the tent. I don't know.
Oh, man. Jesus Christ. I hope I never have to see this movie ever again.
Hey, guys, we want you to do a special screening of Pinocchio in Outer Space.
No!
No! Wee! No!
Laugh with me, Choco.